end up coming over the rise in the truck because we're trying to get up into the mountain area, and before you know it, there's already elk where we're kind of driving in. And he's like, "Well, does anyone want to shoot?" Because we only had a cow tag, and so he's like, "Does anyone try to shoot a cow?" And so I volunteered, and I shot my first cow elk, my first time hunting. And Dan just looks at me after we got the elk down and everything, and he's like, it'll never really be that easy.
Yeah, right.
And you don't know that as a new hunter. You're like, oh, okay, like how much harder could it be?
Right.
And then it was like 4 or 5 years of me trying like every single day out by myself to kill my first elk again.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. This week, I have Ryan Holm on as a guest. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me.
We talked a little bit ahead of time, and I followed you online. But for people listening in, like, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
Yeah, I've been around in the industry for quite some time, but the company I've been, for marketing, I've been with Mystery Ranch for about 13 years and then kind of done some transitional stuff since then. But yeah, I'm a hunter. I'm a climber. I was predominantly a climber. I spent most of my life since I was like 14 years old, all the way up until 38, 39, just climbing, traveling all over the United States and a little bit in the world. And so yeah, that's been a passion of mine for a really long time. And then through that process of working at Mystery Ranch, one of my good buddies got me into hunting, and so I was just like completely fell in love with it. So that's kind of a little bit of my background and overview. But
Yeah. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota, just Apple Valley, just south of Minneapolis by a little bit. So yeah, I know the Midwest area quite well. I didn't actually grow up there hunting though. I grew up fishing, lots of walleye fishing with my dad.
Yeah.
But never any hunting, surprisingly. But yeah, so I know you guys where you guys are at.
How'd you get into climbing then? What are you climbing in Minnesota?
Well,
by the way, we call it Minnesota here in Maggie. So
what is that?
I don't know.
Yeah. I grew up climbing in a place called Red Wing, which you may have been to. It's like a small little. It's a pretty cool town if you ever want to make the trip, because you're Michigan, I guess.
Yeah, west side.
You're a little bit further out. So yeah, Red Wing's a small little like boutique town. It's got like Red Wing shoes is from there. If you ever heard of that brand.
I wondered. Okay, yeah.
And then there's like a really nice limestone cliff up there, and it's like a beautiful place. It's got the Canyon River that runs through there. But I grew up there climbing there, and then I did a little climbing session in Somerset, which is just on the border into Wisconsin.
Yeah.
At a national park there. Yeah, or state park. But yeah, that's where I kind of grew up climbing, and then my buddy moved out here to Bozeman, Montana. And then, that kind of opened up the floodgates as far as climbing availability and traveling around in Montana, and also going down to Utah a ton, Bishop, California. Yeah.
So you just thought your buddy moved out, and eventually you moved out. Is that how that worked?
Yeah. I mean, you always have you have your climbing partner, right? And so, it's climbing with your climbing partner is always, number one. And so him being out here just made sense. And so I graduated from school in Chicago.
Where in Chicago?
I was actually it's called the university is called North Park University.
Okay.
But it's on, I don't know if you know Chicago really well, but it's on like Kedzie and Foster, off the end of the red line there.
It's there. Yeah. We go. My wife's family's from there. My family's sort of from the area, so I'm a Bears fan.
Right. Are you? The Bears, huh?
No Bears.
I'm a Vikes fan, so there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been to tons of Chicago Cubs games.
Hard to beat them.
Yep.
Yeah. So so you're a climber. Wait, how do you get it? Who introduced? How do you get into climbing? Like, how does that work?
I don't know. Well, I guess it was through my friend Kyle. They were really into climbing. They're actually really into skiing. So they're kind of in that outdoor scene. So they're really into skiing. Minnesota obviously doesn't have the best skiing in the world, but they do have Buck Hill, which, a lot of the USA team actually trained there because it was so icy. It's perfect terrain for them.
Hmm.
And so they love climbing, they love skiing. And so I went out with them to a place in Wisconsin, went climbing for my first time. And I was just like, wow, this is really different. So I was really into sports and ball sports and everything like that, like most kids growing up. But this kind of it was really uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where you kind of had to know what you were doing to be safe. So you're up on a wall, you're climbing with gear, you're climbing on a route that you may have never been on. You feel a little bit of exposure, and that was, I don't know, for some reason that really clicked with me.
Yeah.
As this like thing was like challenged me mentally and physically in a different way that I hadn't been too exposed to in ball sports. And yeah, it was just like, and then you're like traveling to places where you normally wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Generally, like you wouldn't hike down this trail, or you wouldn't hike up to this cliff, and you wouldn't be in this area where most people aren't. You spend the day up on the cliff, and you're there for like an entire 8 hours, and you don't see a single person.
Mm-hmm.
It's really secluded, and you're like just, giving it your all on the side of this cliff, and you're just like the only ones there, and you're just enjoying, and you're just outside in the sun. And yeah, it's just like a perfect
Totally no.
setting.
I mean, OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence. Hunting, I felt the same way about hunting throughout my whole life. I did grew up playing sports and everything else, and I don't know, just like a presence that you need to have, and hunting or outdoor stuff generally, that's just different than, like you said, ball sports, which are great too. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we, that was like at my younger age. And then when I moved out to Bozeman, it starts what I mean by opening up the doors to other opportunities. Like we have Highlight Canyon here, which is like one of the best ice climbing, mixed climbing areas in the lower 48. And so the ice comes in way earlier in the season. We have a thing called Bozeman Ice Festival out here. But yeah, it's really technical, challenges you. You can climb on like a 70 or 80-foot ice route. I do mixed climbing where you like kind of transition between ice and rock.
Yeah.
So it can be super sketchy, and the rock is a little slippery. So you're literally just sitting there, like placing your ice tool on a rock and just like hoping that's old. And, you might be above, your last piece of gear, and you got sharp things all over your body with your crampons and your ice axes. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just a little different. So that's kind of where I started to cut my teeth on that a little bit more. And, yeah, it's a fun, challenging activity that brings you to different places, just like hunting. So,
Yeah. So you didn't grow up really hunting. You mentioned doing a little walleye fishing out in Minnesota. How'd you get into? You were at Mystery Ranch and we brought you out hunting, or how'd you get into it?
Yeah, one of my good friends that was a climbing partner that I ended up meeting here out in Bozeman. He said, "Hey man, do you want to?" He was just like, I was just talking to him all over him. He was just like, "Hey, I'm going out elk hunting, and I got a spot open if you want to come with us." Like it was like the last weekend of the year. And I was like, "Well, I don't have a rifle and I don't have all this stuff." And so he's like, "We'll just go out to the range really quick and make sure, how to shoot it." And then that last weekend, he took us out and we went hunting in the mountains. Kind of more like drove in his truck up the road and got access to this property. And we went up there, and I ended up end up coming over the rise in the truck because we're trying to get up into the mountain area, and before you know it, there's already elk where we're kind of driving in. And he's like, "Well, does anyone want to shoot?" Because we only had a cow tag, and so he's like, "Does anyone try to shoot a cow?" And so I volunteered, and I shot my first cow elk, my first time hunting. And Dan just looks at me after we got the elk down and everything, and he's like, you know, he's like, "It'll never really be that easy."
Yeah, right.
And you don't know that as a new hunter. You're like, "Oh, okay, like how much harder could it be?"
Right.
And then it was like 4 or 5 years of me trying like every single day out by myself to kill my first elk again,
Yeah.
So
The
and
second elk.
the second elk, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it's that Dan got me into it, and that was the kind of the start of the rifle, and then that kind of led me down the road of like. And then I met some other friends that were into hunting. It's like, well, if you really like fly fishing, you really like bow hunting,
Yeah.
and because it's like rifle hunting is kind of like spin fishing,
Yeah.
and shooting and hunting with a bow is kind of like fly fishing. It's just a little bit more active. You participate in the activity. And so that was kind of like falling in love with that, was kind of learning a new skill. And it became a thing where, I grew up playing golf as well.
Okay.
So I really understand like all these mechanics that are happening. And so that was like a cool new challenge to learn how to shoot a bow, and then ultimately that led me to learning how to shoot a longbow through a whole other connection. So that was, yeah.
Oh, you're in the trad game.
Well, I've gone down. I mean, I still have a compound bow, and I have a trad bow too. So yeah, it's a little bit of mix of both. So
Yeah, no, I know. So yeah, I mean, I got into the trad game hard for a couple of years just to learn it because it was cool. It's
yeah,
fun.
yep,
But I will say, anytime I'm sharing camp or whatever with anybody who has two weapons, usually it's like a bow and a rifle.
right.
Usually if you see the first good animal you see, you grab your rifle. So like, if you have a compound and a recurve, I'm wondering, like, you see a good bull, are you grabbing the compound, or are you, staying true to the recurve or the longbow?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like I gave like a good solid years to the trad bow. I've come back around to the compound because I hadn't really. When I got into a compound, I was kind of like a very standard basic setup, and then ended up meeting a few friends who now I worked with. I worked with these guys. Worked with Zach at Montana Wild for a long time through Mr. Ranch.
Yeah. I like those guys. I've never met
Yeah.
them, but they good fun content.
Yeah, yeah. And so I know Zach really well, and then Jared, obviously Jared's a good friend of mine too. And so they kind of, Jared's really into geeking out on tech stuff, and so that's where I was like, well, maybe let me like revisit this compound bow thing. So I got really into shooting compound bow. We shoot in a league throughout the wintertime.
Oh no. Indoor stuff.
Indoor stuff, and then obviously the Toll Archery Challenge. We'll try to make it to one of those stops that they have. I actually had it in Red Lodge this year, which is I actually ended up missing it. I was on a family trip, but usually go to Big Sky. But yeah, so there's like lots of different ways to practice.
This episode is brought to you by 2O Gear, innovators in technical hunting clothing. 2O is a newer company. It's based right here in Michigan, and whether you're hunting elk in the mountains or chasing antelope in the plains or traipsing through swamps after that ruddy buck, 2O has you covered with premium jackets and pants, merino wool layers, everything you could possibly need to stay comfortable in the woods. Their products are engineered for functionality and durability, ensuring you stay protected in any conditions. Plus, their camo is really effective. We're big fans. So don't take our word for it, though. Go to 2ogear.com and check it out.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So how many years have you been hunting? Like with
I think it's like
with a bow.
Let's see, maybe like 2011.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of time.
I don't know if that's right, but I think that's about right. It's just I've had 2 kids since then, so my memory sucks.
Yeah, exactly. How old are my children? Yeah.
Yeah, because my daughter's 8, so I was definitely hunting quite a bit more before then. So it's probably been like 12 years. But as the thing for me has been over the years is that like my climbing kind of overlaps with hunting.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been until like the last 2 years where I've actually just been all in on hunting,
Yeah, sure.
and I haven't been into climbing as much. And so I think where I've missed the experience of becoming a more efficient hunter is that while everyone else is out scouting their areas, taking inventory and figuring out new access points and all that stuff, like I was out like projecting on my rock climber.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so this year, actually last year was a little bit of the beginning of that, but then I ended up having like a little bit of a health thing. But this year is my kind of like my first year. I feel like I've dedicated the entire winter, and then I've dedicated a ton of time to searching on maps, and then dedicated a ton of time to go out and hiking. Obviously staying in shape with Mountain Tough stuff. But I feel like this is the first year where I'm like all in on just like everything's hunting until all the seasons show up. So it's kind of, it'll be interesting thing for me that I haven't actually ever done. So
What you mentioned a health thing. What you want to talk a little bit about that?
yeah, like I went to, so over the years, probably for about 14 years, I was dealing with a thing that's, it's called AFib. And it's also just like irregular heartbeat or heart palpitations or stuff like that. And so it's something that just kind of like naturally started occurring over time. And, it could be due to stress, it could be due to other things.
You a pretty stressed guy?
Not really. I'm actually a pretty relaxed, chill
You don't
person.
come off stress. That's why.
No. No, like I just think it's just like my dad had some heart things when he got older, and that's ultimately what he died from. So I think there's just like some genetics in there, with that stuff. But so it's something that I didn't really pay attention to as much when you're younger, but as you get older, obviously you take care of your body. It's like your number one. So yeah, so over those like course of 14 years, I went into AFib like 5 times and then had to get cardioverted 5 times. But you kind of have heart palpitations through that. So it really challenges you to be like, figure out how to make your health, make your mind more, stronger and prepare for those types of situations and like what you're dealing with. And so, I went through like every health thing you could possibly think of. Actually ended up doing a thing called neurofeedback. I don't know if you ever heard of that before.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting treatment, but people that like deal with like anxiety or depression,
Yeah.
or any sort of cognitive issue, it's like a really good tool to kind of map your brain, to give you like a snapshot picture of what that looks like. And then when you do some treatments, they put like electrodes or these kind of bricks on your head that have like a electrical current, because you're dealing with like all the different types of waves, whether they're beta, theta, delta. You can have an overactive frontal lobe, and so people who like deal with anxiety or like overthink or have PTSD or like things that are anything that obviously the world is dealing with pretty consistently. It's a way to kind of fix those things. So when you look at your heart and your gut and your mind, all those things are really connected. And for me, as I kind of went through that journey of that, I kind of learned that, I can control my breath. I can control my mind, which ultimately controls my heart. Yeah. And so that was something that I kind of learned through that time. So being a climber, those are pretty stressful situations, but you like learn to deal with them because you're trying to diffuse the situation or train your mind to deal with that pressure and make good, clear decisions. So through all of that, I waited for about 4 years for this thing called the pulse field ablation, which also is a new innovative way to deal with AFib and irregular heartbeat stuff. They actually just go up to your groin, and then they have this like really cool electrode that goes up into your heart, and then it expands into your heart wall. And then when your heart does its thing, it basically scars it in a way. It doesn't really, it scars afterwards, but it deals with that like one thing that's kind of like the electricity that's kind of going off in its own direction as opposed to staying within the normal heart rhythm. And so by cutting off that channel, it scars that spot and then allows everything to heal. And then that ultimately fades away. So yeah, so that was kind of a different thing for my life last year. But through all of that, it really taught me. Before that, I went into the surgery, I joined a group called Mountain Tough, to kind of get in shape and put my body in the best space and my mind in the best space. So I did all that training with them for about 2 years, before the surgery. And
Did you know for 2 years the surgery was coming? Is that the like?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because they actually have a pretty long wait time, and actually was still going through trials at the time that I learned about it. So it actually wasn't a certified surgery at that time. So it took us a little bit to kind of get to that point, but yeah, it was intense, but it's kind of interesting being on the surgical table and being in the cold room, and there's like 15 docs around you. And they're like, and the one lady, she looks at me, she goes, you're the most relaxed person I've ever met before this surgery. She goes, are you scared at all? I go, no. I was like, I've been here before. I've dealt with this in my life. I've been a climber. As a climber, you're constantly dealing with death, in front of you. I know it sounds a little extra. It is. It's like you are generally putting yourself at risk in climbing. I've had 5 friends die from climbing over the years, really good friends. And so being on the operating table and being there, and I'm just like, yeah, it just is what it is. And I hope when I wake up that I'm still here. So yeah, so she's like, and then so we just talked a little bit, and obviously they hit you with the anesthesia and you're out. So yeah. So over the course of that period of time, I didn't really realize what it would take to recover from that. But I put myself in the best position possible. And probably
with training and stuff. And
yeah,
tell me more about how you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, with training, it's like Mountain Tough has a couple different programs, but like I helped them with like the Backcountry 2.0 program that they currently have, which I think it might be 3.0 by this point. But it's just a lot of circuits over periods of weeks that are compounded together. And with Mountain Tough, you can either do it on their app, or you can also do it obviously in your garage. And so obviously during the period of COVID, working out in your garage became a really popular thing. But it's nice because you're kind of a part of a community. And for me locally, obviously I get the benefit of knowing those guys right here. Like their office is 2 minutes from my house. So I would work out with them in the facility, what they call their lab. And I would just help them with getting things done there, and then doing some testing. And so I was a big part of that, and it makes you stay consistent so that, my dog's chewing on my cord.
No, you're worried. No worries at all.
Bogey, not chewing on the cord. So yeah, it's good because you're there, you're working out with them in person, and being able to get like real life feedback. And because when I first started Mountain Tough, like at being a climber, you usually like have really a lot of upper body strength, but you have no lower body strength.
Right.
But for me, I'd be going on these hikes to go hunting, and I get back to the truck, and I'm like, well, how would I do this with an elk on my back?
Right.
So it was kind of an eye opener from that standpoint, to be able to know like, well, how am I going to be able to deal with like this amount of load over this period of time, and then do it over and over again and still be able to recover and be able to go out the next day. So yeah, so working out with Mountain Tough over those periods of time it really helped me kind of shape my body and get my legs up to speed. So yeah.
Man, and you mentioned other stuff like your mental and, like what else, what else were you doing? How'd that help?
As far as like health and
Yeah,
health
yeah,
and
getting ready and like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like a lot of the stuff with Mountain Tough, but obviously being on the mountains, being in the outdoor space and being a climber, talking a little bit about the transition between like being in the outdoors, my goal being climbing a route. You could be dealing with weather, you could be dealing with clothing, you could be just dealing with environmental stuff all the time. So there's definitely like this, like I was able to take that from an outdoor perspective and then transition that into my hunting space. So now I have all the same types of clothing,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
but then it's just a different objective.
Yeah.
And what I liked about climbing is you're kind of like always searching for a new route or searching for a new area. And so you're kind of almost organically doing what hunting is like you're like looking for this animal
Yep.
as opposed to looking for the next rock climb. So it's amazing how closely tied they are. And the objective is to complete something like a route or to kill an animal at the end of the day. So Mountain Tough was a big part of that from like a mental toughness standpoint, doing like, sometimes the workouts you're doing like 200 lunges as your buyout in the workout. And so it's like, you've got to be able to grind that out. And I'm a tall guy. I'm like, I know in the camera you can't tell, but I'm 6'5".
Oh, you are.
I've got these like long levers. So as
Yeah,
you're doing
right.
a lunge, I almost feel like I'm doing 2 lunges for every one that everyone else is
True.
doing.
Well, and I gotta think, nothing builds mental toughness like wall sits, and being 6'5" and doing like a weighted wall sit can't be, you can't be mentally weak and do that.
No.
Hunters, listen up. Latitude Outdoors builds gear for the mobile hunter. Their saddle hunting systems are designed to cut weight, not performance, so you can cover more ground and set up fast, wherever the hunt takes you. From dense hardwoods to open ridges, their mobile-focused gear keeps you efficient and adaptable. Check out their full range at latitudeoutdoors.com.
No, you can't. And so like that's the workout. I mean, the workouts are, you could be doing deadlifts, you could be doing bench, you could be doing like overhead presses, you could be doing like a bunch of core workouts, you could be doing like farmer carries, you could be doing sled push pulls, you could there's like a lot of body mechanical stuff. There's some form, there's like rowing on a bike. Mountain Tough has like an event they do every year. It's called Tough Fest, where all the people that work out in the app, they have the opportunity to like come to the lab and check out the lab and work out with everybody. They show films. They get some of their ambassadors involved, and it's a good community event. Sometimes they work with Mountain Ops, and they'll do like we did a few things where they would pack all these meals for local families for the food bank. We'd pack like a crazy amount of lunches for like the whole summertime to like feed the community. So there's like it's just like a good overall. It's just like it's a close knit community, but they also they're starting to expand nationally. They got a lot of thread into the military space and the wildland firefighters. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you, when was that surgery then?
Surgery was November 1st of last year. And then I had this opportunity at the end of the month, which I was like, I don't know that I was fully recovered, but it was like one of those opportunities.
When you're recovering, what part of you hurt?
You just like the first day after the surgery coming home, like it's actually like I got the surgery that day and then we drove home that evening.
Mm.
And then, cause it's actually like a outpatient surgery, it's
Interesting.
um, and so we got home and like the first day, like the first week, I'm not able to lift like 7 pounds. And so like, just from like a surgical thing, you like don't want things to get torn open because you like go 2 things up through your groin and you obviously don't want those rip open and bleed to death. Right. Yeah. So, but, yeah, so it took some time there to kind of recover from that, but then it's like, you're just like physically exhausted. Yeah. Which is a lot different. When you wake up, you kind of feel fatigued. It's kind of like you just like, I don't know how to explain the feeling, but it's just like you just ran like a 50 miler and you just like, you kind of feel sluggish for just weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can't really do much. I was kind of like, it was the mental part of it was that I was kind of at the peak of my fitness.
Right.
And then to have that come right in the peak of your fitness, and then to like go from like peak of your fitness to the bottom of your fitness.
Right. That really, because I just read somewhere how fast you lose muscle per pounds per, however long you're inactive, and it's like crazy fast.
It's very fast. Yeah. You especially notice as a climber, like if you don't climb for like 5 days, like you almost like lose all of your like spontaneity or like your springboard in your body.
Really?
So like as a climbing training and the cycles that you go through from a training perspective, like you can almost like lose a lot of your power just because you hadn't climbed for 5 days. So it's really like it's a build up process that you do over time.
Huh.
But yeah, like for just like a physical element, I kind of felt like I just like lost all of my peak performance. Like it's almost like your cardio goes out the window.
Yeah.
Your heart is kind of like trying to figure this out. It's going through this scarring process the entire time too, which takes months. So it's just, yeah, it takes a while. So anyway, I got this opportunity at the end of November. I think it was either the last weekend or the weekend just before the last weekend, but I got opportunity to hunt through a friend on his property, and it wasn't the easiest elk hunt. So I actually asked my buddies Zach and Jared. I was like, you know what, guys, I can't do this by myself,
Yeah.
and I'm not really one to ask for help very often. And so I was like, I need your help. We can go shoot these elk. I think there's an opportunity where we can get up to about, we hike into about 2.5 miles or 3 miles, and we'll get up to this point. I won't be moving fast, but I'll get there.
Right.
And so we found a herd of elk. We found a bull in there that we felt like was pretty decent for the area. It was definitely, it's more of a mountain bull, so it's not like you're going on the Missouri breaks and there's like 7x7s and 7x8s wandering around. It's more of a mountain bull, like thicker beams and stuff. And so we got up to this area, and they were kind of on this like flat plateau just below the tree line, and we kind of navigated through the drainages to kind of get up to the spot. We kind of got to one spot and saw them, but then we kind of backed out and went around, and we got to a spot where, and before this time I was, we hadn't really talked about this at all up until now, but through Jared, I got really into setting up and building my own rifles.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so all that stuff was like, learning to build my own rifle with Jared's help and a few other friends' help and gunsmiths' help, and getting everything built and going out to the range and shooting, doing a lot of positional training, which kind of gets you in that realm of doing like NRL or a PRS match.
Right.
I've only done a few local matches here that Jared runs, but doing all this positional work, which, with a woodstock rifle that has like a really standard bipod, I hadn't, really done anything like shooting off a tripod or doing positional stuff. And so as we're getting up to the top of this mountain and getting up to the top of this plateau, we get to a point where you can't go any further, otherwise they're going to see you. So we're at like 560, give or take, and we get set up on a tripod, and my rifle and my line of sight is like just over the grass,
Yeah, sure.
we're being on a tripod and being in a seated position at 560, everything's got to be really stable. There was not a lot of wind. It was a beautiful day. We actually drove through a snowstorm to get there, which you could barely see like 10 feet in front of our truck, but we got there, the snow lifted, the sun came out. It was like perfect weather for hunting. And I ended up getting the bull like was kind of surrounding and working around the herd, and came out to the edge, and then turned to the side, and then shot him at 560, and he ran about 15 yards and just dropped right there. So that was
Really
pretty cool. And then we got to clean the bowl and do all this stuff in like the bright sun, like on the snow pad.
Yeah, right.
I was just like, it was like a perfect day for like, so it was pretty incredible to like have, a heart surgery and then pack out a bullhead with some meat too, because obviously, for three guys you gotta. But we took it all in one load, but we packed it out and yeah. So it was
3 miles, right?
that's pretty,
3 miles.
yeah, it was good through like snowdrift, so it wasn't easy. So we got back on the truck, but I think after that it was a good experience. But the next few months after that was a harder recovery than I was prepared for. A lot of mental stuff, lots of physical stuff. Like your body's kind of going through this transition. Your heart's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. It's like it's been intruded and it didn't really know it, and then now it's trying to figure out what's going on. So, but now I feel really good. I'm back into current state today, like working out and still doing mountain tough workouts. I go to a local gym too. But yeah, it was a longer road than I was prepared for, but yeah.
But you're back. You're feeling like you're back.
Yeah. I feel like I'm back and I'm prepared. And so it's given me enough time. But there's a lot of like, you go through a lot of stuff. You go through a lot of depression.
Oh yeah.
You like go through like motivational lulls, just like everyone else. But, overall, like just going back to like how I prepared myself. Cause I think you can get to a point where you're like, you have to look back and realize like, wow, I really like set myself up to be successful in this. And even though it sucks right now, you prepared yourself for it to suck. Yeah. And so that was like mentally checking back in with that and knowing that I had put all this effort into that to get to this point. It allowed me to kind of grind through the suck and then get back to where I am now today, where I'm not at my peak performance, but, I do feel like I'm positioning myself. And so I'm getting back into hiking in the mountains, and trying to get at least one hike in every week up in the mountains, which is, I'm very grateful for, because you obviously can't do that when you're out Midwest or on the East side. Mm-hmm. You don't have that same opportunity, to be in the elevation part. Like you can do the physical part on a treadmill for sure, or a Stairmaster, but the elevation part is always the hardest. So
yeah, you can't match that. We're in Michigan. It's like our highest point is like 1,900 feet in the whole state. That's the UP. Right. So we're not. You can find some. We will climb like ski hills and stuff in the summer for training, but without the altitude stuff, that's another component.
Yeah. So we so overall, yeah, it's been good. It's been all that stuff, and so yeah, through all of that, I think that's helped me kind of prepare myself mentally for that, or even just like use that experience to teach my kids. But yeah, I'm actually in the process of building my son a rifle, going through that process.
Nice.
Just building like him on like an MDT chassis, with that 126, and then I got a preferred barrel for him, which I'm still waiting for. And then I got him a Defiance Action for like building him a 223 Remington, but then got a different bolt face for a 6.5 to move that, to change that out to a 6.5 Creedmoor. Obviously you have to buy a new barrel, but it's like a nice little transition spot for him. Yeah, I can swap them. So yeah, that's been a learning curve too. And I want to get into reloading, but I don't have the funds yet to like fully invest in reloading. But I also feel like I'm not a good enough shooter to I mean, I know that the feet per second, the variance there does make a big difference. But I think until you start hitting like, making better impacts and getting your positions down and doing all that stuff, like that's where when you get more efficient, then it seems like reloading comes more into play.
Right.
But as a novice, I feel like you're like box ammo is probably fine and efficient for now. Obviously the standard deviation is a lot larger, but I haven't noticed it to a point where it's like, wow, that shot didn't happen because of my, the deviation was too high. Like right. It was more of like a form mechanic.
Same, yeah. I know. It's like, and that's most people, I think, even people that make, load their own and everything. It's like for the most part, you won't ever. I wouldn't, and even all the hunting I do, I'm fine without. I have friends that do and everything, but
Yeah.
those are you only have time for so much, you know, funtivity in a day and like different hobbies and stuff. So it's like you got to be ruthless in cutting the stuff out that you can have someone else help you with
Right.
sometimes.
Right. Right.
So so anyways, so you shot this bull. You're on your way back. I mean, this whole time you work in the hunting industry as well, right? So you were at Mystery Ranch. You've done
Yep.
stuff with Modern Huntsman, which is a cool publication. You're with Leica now.
Yep. Yeah. I was at Mr. Ranch for a good amount of time. And then I actually had a small stint at a company called Moultrie Mobile, which I'm sure you know who they are
Yep.
since you're on the whitetail side. Um, and then I transitioned into doing like more freelance and worked with Land Trust for a little while. And then I also ended up helping my friend Tyler at Modern Huntsman. Um, they're a really good publication. He's got, a ton of creative concepts. He's got stories that need to be told, whether they want to be told or people want them or not want to be told. It's like he's like a good publication for like not your standard hunting publication.
Yeah.
Like he's telling stories about traveling and going. A lot of the stuff can be Africa, but a lot of the stuff can be like more on the core hunting side, but lots of cooking and other things like that. But he just needed some help on some web development stuff, so I was helping him kind of redesign and redo a lot of the back end issues he had on his e-commerce part, and then ultimately helped him with kind of doing a full fledged redesign. So yeah, that's been like a cool journey to help a friend and have, because like a lot of those relationships with friends, sometimes they go south when you like work together in business.
Right.
I feel like we've done good, and like we've had some good open honest conversations and to make sure that we're both on the same page, and it's been a really cool journey. So lots of good things to happen from our announcement. So
Yeah.
but yeah, now I'm at Leica, and I worked I actually worked with them on a project way back when with Mark Seacat, when he was helping them with Leica stuff, kind of like almost like the precipice of like hunting media, which was like, today it's like a totally different landscape, right?
Yeah.
And back then there really wasn't hunting media, you know like it was like maybe there was like an old guy that was like followed around with a camera and like they made some films,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
But it was and obviously a big nod to those individuals, because they had a vision for something that was like even
Paved the
before
way.
even before people were even thinking about the concept. But then I do feel like CCAT was kind of like the new next generation that was like taking like kind of bringing together like really amazing photography with hunting.
Yeah.
Which hunting wasn't always portrayed that way, right? Like it was like washed out, uh overexposed like hunting films, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and like it was like very unplanned, unscripted, or like it was they weren't working with specific brands as ambassadors, like it was like this time way before then. And that was kind of the beginning of that, was where we started working with Leica through Mystery Ranch, because we were using their optics. And it was at that point, they created this film called Searching for West. But it was, yeah, it was like it was the time when they were just playing with that concept of like really like high end videos, like a ski film, that you'd want to see, or a climbing film. It was at like kind of like that same level of treatment, where a red camera was very new to the industry, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool opportunity, and I ended up helping with them through that, and helping with the Leica stuff. So for me, not being in the hunting industry, I really latched on to Leica as being my solution. So everything that I've ever owned in the hunting space, for like a rifle scope or a spotting scope or binoculars, has always been Leica.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so it was
great glass.
yeah, great glass, and I've used it forever. And it was actually interesting through the interviews. They're like, "How much Leica stuff do you own?" I'm like, "I have almost everything that you possibly have for like.
That's a good. That's a positive on the. You know.
Right. And I've actually worked on content for Leica. So yeah, so I had a good buddy there, Hamilton, who was working there, and I ended up securing the role for the director of marketing at Leica. So it's been great. Working with a brand that makes really quality products. It makes my job easier. Not necessarily, it's not like selling candy to a baby, but it's really like it makes it achievable, and it makes you excited to sell something that actually has value, something that will, if you purchase something from Leica, you'll have it for a long time.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that are running Leica binoculars or even a Leica camera that they've had for 30, 35 years, and it's still in the same condition that it was before. So that really, that really spoke to me. And so, yeah, it's been a great journey. And this is kind of my first season. I signed on with them actually in September of last year.
Oh, fun.
So like I changed a new job in September. I started working for them right the opening weekend for bow season for elk in Montana. Then I had a heart surgery in November, and then I'm like in full trade show mode.
Oh yeah.
For the entire winter. And then now we're like getting through that and then going in and try to like recreate the Leica brand and recreate everything for them, and then move into the end of the season for getting all the content shot and getting everything prepared and having at least the vision so we can create all the assets for our accounts that we work with. So just a ton of stuff packed into the year. So I feel like I haven't even had the chance to take a breath.
Yeah.
And now we're into full-fledged launching of products this season, now going into the fall. And so before you know it, hunting season will be here next month. So yeah.
Hey, but this year you don't have heart surgery, so it should be, a smooth sailing for
Right.
this hunting season.
Yeah. So
It's wild.
yeah. So yeah, it's been good. It's like it's definitely been a challenge, but through it all, it's always like, you get to the very end of some of those life things and you realize that, you spent a lot of time, but now you have all this knowledge. So going into the hunting season, like I feel like I've got my bow put together properly. Everything's working right. I've got all my rifle stuff set up. I really took the time to hone in all my equipment, keeping my fitness, at a good level. So I feel like that's almost what, from like a fair chase standpoint. I mean, that's what you want, right? Like that's what you can't buy equipment into getting into, you can buy Leica products, but at the end of the day, like if you're physically not ready,
Yeah,
like
you have to know how to use it, like, yeah.
and you've had to use it in different scenarios and trained with it and challenge yourself and, put yourself into those situations and test it, tweak it, make sure it's working, go back out and reconfirm that's working. But even at those points, like it's good. So, actually this year, I have an opportunity through another friend to go hunt, a buffalo,
Oh, do you really?
and I'm going to do it with my trad bow.
Oh, nice. Yeah, where at?
It's in Montana.
Yep.
And the nice thing about it is it's, like it's not necessarily, I mean, I kind of struggle with this concept too, but obviously bison in Montana are considered to be cattle.
Yep.
And the nice thing about this area though, it's on like a gigantic ranch.
Right.
And they actually have a pack of wolves living in the area, and they have tons of grizzly bears.
Nice.
And so all these bison live with them daily.
Yeah.
So they're very tuned in. It's not like your average, it's not like a bison just like sitting in a cage down in the pasture where they're like have no threat. Like these bison are wild. They're roaming almost wild because the territory they're in.
It's huge.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
So it's like I struggle with a little bit, but I do ultimately think that it's still going to be a challenge, and to do it with a trad bow, I
What time
feel
of
like
year?
I'm going to try to do it maybe like in end of October, November. Um, the reason why is because I think obviously as the winter comes in, it starts to get a little colder. The coat gets a little bit bigger. But there's also a little bit more of a challenge there. So I have never hunted bison before. When you it's always interesting. Like you always see you see a whitetail walking down the street
Mm-hmm.
at your house in Michigan, right? And you could walk by them in the middle of the street and they're not spooked at all. They're just
Really?
like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But as soon as you like turn on, like, I'm going to hunt you,
Yeah.
it's like they just like
I know.
immediately pick that up. It's like you're obviously have this like aura around you.
Yeah.
You're putting out this energy that's a lot different than just like,
Hey,
you're sitting,
yeah.
oh, hey, buddy, walking through my yard. But as soon as you turn on the hunting, it's like this, like, their hackles go up.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I this winter I did a bison hunt with my bow.
Legit.
Yeah, my first time, and mine was in South Dakota. It was very similar setup though, just like a huge expanse of land. I went, later, so they were pretty solitary.
Right.
Maybe there'd be a little group of bison here, or whatever, and it was hard. That was a hard hunt. It was not an easy hunt.
Right.
For us, the weather was just brutal. But I was so surprised how wary, and how good their eyesight was.
Right.
Like a surprisingly good, and especially the cows. Like, I kept having a cow would lock on me, and they just will look at you and not move for 5-10 minutes. They'll just stand stock still. And so you're like, it's looking at me. I got to sit here and wait. But I mean, to do it with a trad bow on top with a compound bow, it wasn't easy. But the trad bow, that's something. That's saying something for sure.
Yeah. And so I'll probably bring my compound as a backup. Like if things don't work out, like if I try, like let's say I try like 20 stalks and they all don't work out because I just can't get close enough, then maybe I'll pull my compound out. But you have to get pretty close. Like I shoot pretty flat at 30 yards.
Yep.
Because just obviously the speed of my my arrow, it's pretty fast. Obviously it's like with a trad bow, it's like a 450 grain. Yeah. It's moving pretty quick. So it's pretty flat at 30. It's just once it gets past 30. So I probably wouldn't never shoot the bison past 30. So, but definitely crawling up to it. It's pretty intimidating because, if that bison for whatever reason feels threatened and doesn't like you, like
They'll mess you up. My guy told me, he's like, if
pretty
it tails, if its tails, he's like, you're out in the open. I don't have a sidearm. Like if its tail goes up, it's either going to take a shit or it's going to charge you. So just like look alive. So I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't think about that going in. Sure,
Right.
but they're huge. That's a huge animal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a freight train. That thing's coming at you.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is like, with the rancher is like, with the wolves out there, if they see something like moving through the grass, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
They're not just out there like all lethargic, like,
No,
like
they are not.
that thing's happening in the world, like, yeah, if they feel like a pressure or see things moving around the grass that don't look, correct, they're going to start paying attention. So,
yeah.
It'll be interesting to try to
easier hunts than bison for sure. Like a lot.
Yeah. So that's the one thing on my docket for this year that I kind of get ready for. So
nice. Well, good. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on today.
yeah,
we hadn't really talked too much ahead of this, so it was good to kind of meet you and get to know you a little bit better. And
yeah,
for people who want to follow along and you and the work you're doing, where can they find you?
I'm mostly on Instagram with Ryan at Ryan Holm, HOLM. Or just through Leica Hunting USA. And then there's obviously I'm helping those guys a little bit in Montana Wild, so go check those guys out. They got some really cool content.
Yeah.
And Modern Huntsman, obviously at Modern Huntsman, they're also got the great publication going, and they actually print off 2 issues annually, and they've got amazing stories in there, all the way back to volume 1. I think
It's like a book. It's nice.
It's a really nice coffee book. Actually, we're coming out with soon we're coming out with a cookbook for bowhunting too. So look for that. That'll launch here in the fall. So a lot of cool things coming here soon. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, man. Thanks again for the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.